Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Supercharged Sunday with me, Emily McHugh, your Supercharged business coach and host. I'm so excited to have you all join us today. And I have a question before we even begin. Have you been wondering how to get people to stop scrolling as they go through their social media feed and stop and look at your posts? Well, if you want to know the answer to that question, you're in the right place and you're going to meet the right person. Our wonderful guest, Jessa Bellman, all the way from Australia. Welcome, Jessa.
Hi. Oh, I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, we're excited to have you because Jessa is a wonderful graphic designer, and her topic today is how to supercharge beautiful content and how to stop the scroll with dropping content. So, we're really going to be in for some insights today for sure on this really important topic that a lot of us are working towards improving our content and being creative with it. So, Jessa, welcome and thank you for sharing these intriguing wisdom you have
Oh,
waiting for us.
thank you so much, Emily. I'm such a huge fan of yours, and I've got my favorite book here.
Oh,
So thank you. I'm very, very spoiled to be interviewed by you. So thank you very much for your time.
oh, that's so exciting. We have to talk about that. How are you enjoying the book? Is it serving you well?
Yes, no, you're very inspirational. So yeah, it's such an honor for me to be here today. I'm very, very honored.
Well, let me tell you, the honor is all mine, and we're all very, very honored ourselves to be able to hear from you. And so, Jessa, let's just dive right in. Tell us how you became a designer, and then we can talk about the topic, like how you came up with the topic today. What are you seeing the issues that people are having? So, tell us about your background, how you got into design.
Okay, so I probably started designing when I was about 8. And computers had just come out, and we were lucky enough to have our own computer,
Yeah.
and sort of sitting there, and I looked at my dad's his business's website, and I was like, oh, that website is a doozy. This 8-year-old is going to make some magic. So I sat down and I designed a new website for his company and had like sparkling stars
At
and
8?
everything. Yeah, it was a car company, so the sparkling stars definitely suited. But anyway, I walked into him and I confidently said, yeah, this website I've made is a lot better. So you need to pitch it to your company.
And or did they take it on? Did they adapt it?
He told me that he was going to take it in, but I don't think he ever showed them.
Oh, their loss, their loss. But that's
I
amazing.
know. Sorry.
No, that's amazing that and then that you had that the confidence in yourself to do that. That was wonderful to do that.
No, I've always just loved technology and loved web design and just design in general. And I sort of went through school and always just gravitated back to it, and then decided to study it at university. So I have a bachelor in design and multimedia.
Mhm.
And out of university, I graduated and I went and worked for a big advertising agency. So I worked there for a couple of years. And then my husband is also a designer, and he worked with me. So we decided to sort of go out on our own and start our own design company. So we've been doing that for 11 years now.
Amazing. That's wonderful. And your company's called Brand Sugar, correct?
Yeah, so I have a couple of different businesses, but my design company is called Brand Sugar, and we make a lot of templates and custom design for people. And we love Canva, where I know that you love Canva yourself, don't you?
Sure do. Yes.
You're such a Canva whiz yourself. So yeah, we
Canvas.
have that in common.
That is really, really great. So, let me ask you, how did you come up with the name Brand Sugar?
Okay, you're probably gonna laugh because I was 6 months pregnant. I was really hungry. So all these food names were just like coming into my head.
Oh.
No, no. It's basically like adding like a little bit of sugar to your design and your brand. So making it just that little bit sweeter, because design is normally like that finishing touch.
Yeah.
So that's where that comes from.
Well, let me tell you something. Jessa is true to her name because I'm going to actually, I shouldn't even show, this is printed and it's not even all that clear. You're not going to see it, but I'll put it up where people can see it very soon. But I did a layout and Jessa did just that. She added that little touch of sugar and sweetened up by design. And it just made all the difference. So yes, you are really a whiz at doing that, making things
Oh, thank
that much
you.
more astute. So let us. I was reading in your bio, and there was an interesting quote in there that you had heard when you were in school, where a professor said, I'm not sure if it's which philosopher it is now, but something to the effect about the work of the designers to make the world less ugly or something. What is that quote? Am I saying it correctly?
Yeah, it's like the role of design is a fight against the ugliness of the
Oh,
world. So it's the idea that as designers we're constantly kind of like battling to make things consistent and beautiful and appealing, and yeah, things like that. So
we're fighting the
it was very
ugliness.
serious. A fight against the ugliness. It's kind of like war, hey?
Yes, actually it is. It is. And it's a fight. I always say that design is about constraint because we can always add and put things in. Oh, let me add this, but the more we add, the less it is. So,
That's a good point.
less is more for sure in design, but it's that we have to hold ourselves back, and I think it forces us to be very succinct and more precise in the messaging. And I think that's going to lead into our whole topic today is to make someone stop and look. You have to know what they need to look at. So let you take this away and let us know why people are struggling with this, and jump into the tips that you have for us on the topic of how to stop the scroll.
Absolutely. So obviously when you're in business, you're always competing against all these other businesses. And it's only especially with COVID, there's been a real influx of sort of new businesses coming online. So it's busier than ever. You're competing more than ever to really sort of draw people into your brand, make them remember you, and really sort of get across the message which you want, like the story that you want to tell them in a very short, like 3-second window while they're sort of scrolling. So it's become a lot more difficult, and that's why design has become a lot more important as well.
Right, right. So with that being said, obviously many people don't may not fully appreciate that to the level that say a professional would. So what would you say are some common mistakes that you're seeing that people, it's like, oh my Lord, they need to stop that. This initial reactions from a
Oh,
design
things that
perspective.
I've seen mistakes in the industry.
Yeah, that
I think like I think the biggest thing is like we're tempted to sort of design for ourselves when we get in there and we design. So we're not actually thinking about our customers. So
mm,
the most important, like the number one thing I would definitely recommend is using colors and fonts and wording and all of that good stuff to really appeal to your ideal client, because that's going to be like they're the ones that you're serving. Like it makes no sense to kind of use like hot pink if you're going to try and appeal to like heavy metal like musicians, for example.
mhm,
If
mhm.
it's really important to sort of think about what your ideal client is going to love the most.
So you make an interesting point here. So how do we bridge the gap between representing your personality or your own personal kind of style, but at the same time speak to that customer you're trying to reach? How do you not lose your identity or lose your essence as you try to appeal to someone else?
That's a really good question. Like, I think that we're always working on a scale of someone who has a full personal brand where they're just the center point of their brand. They've got their photos, their logo might just be like almost a signature. And then on the other hand, we've got like businesses which is a business name, for example, Brand Sugar, and they've got the colors, and there's sort of like a spectrum like that. So I think like you're going to land somewhere on the spectrum, and it's going to be sort of an educated choice and decision as to how much sort of branding you actually put into your brand and how much of you that you put into your brand as well. So it's a pretty complicated answer, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And sometimes who we're trying to reach is similar to ourselves in a way, or we have certain things in common, right? So depending on what your business is and what you're about, obviously, the context. But many times,
Absolutely.
so that can definitely come to bear. Okay, so let's go right into how to do this, how to create this dropping, scroll, stop the scroll behavior that we're all so eager about. What are the tips to do that?
Okay, so I think the main thing is to look different from everyone else. So I have an invitation company as well. So I sell on Etsy, and that is search engine based. So it's obviously very competitive, and you're competing in the search engine. So you have your little thumbnails, which is very similar to what we have on Facebook with our ads or our content.
Right.
And basically, the way that I got a foothold into the market is I looked at all the thumbnails. I was like, oh, no one is putting their background on white. So I started putting all my thumbnails with the background of white. So they really stood out in the search engine. So they looked completely different, and people were drawn to what's different. So that is that's a really big thing you can do. You can sort of do a really big analysis of your biggest competitors and then make your content different. So use a different color. For example, like I think like 90% of the brands in the world use blue. That's going into like corporate. It's so popular.
90%.
So
Wow.
yeah, if you're in an industry where everyone uses blue, maybe use green or purple. Use a different color.
Is it because they consider blue safe or blue secure? I mean, what is the deal with blue?
Yeah, blue is all about safety and security and that kind of thing. There's a lot of sort of trust that goes with blue, but there's trust that goes with other colors as well.
Wow. Okay. So let me make sure I got you clear. So you have an invitation company. So you design like invitations, wedding invitations, or different types of invitations?
I do. I've actually got 17 Etsy stores. So a lot of Etsy stores.
Jessa,
So I
you're
sell a
holding
lot of
out on
different
us.
products. Sorry?
Tell me. I said you're holding out on us. You're quite the Etsy mogul here taking place.
I wouldn't say I'm the Etsy mogul, but I sell a lot of digital products. I have like a stock photography store. I sell invitations. I obviously sell our Canva templates on Etsy. I sell planner templates. Yeah, a big range of digital products. So I
Wow.
definitely know how difficult it can be as a business owner to stand out.
So how do you so I know you're going to tell us a little bit later on how people can connect with you and everything like this, but how can we tap into all these digital stores that you have and be aware of the world of all these options to buy these digital products?
Like, where does sort of my traffic come from in terms
Well,
of my
no, no,
customers?
let me clarify more. So you have the different Etsy stores. Do you have like one place where people can select all the different Etsy stores you're in, or they're all kind of just distinct by themselves and you just have to get to them individually?
Yeah, they all kind of just float around on Etsy by themselves, unconnected. So
Well, tonight we're gonna connect them today. We want to visit all your Etsy stores and see all the cool things you're offering.
oh,
Absolutely. But Jess, I think this is really quite intriguing because for many people, this is very new to them, the idea of the digital products and the way that you're creating them. Like you're building a lot an income, I mean a whole business, your business off these digital platforms and people just getting the physical product by printing it themselves, right? I think is that what they have to do? They literally print it on their own printer when they
that's
download.
exactly right.
That's exactly right. So,
Yeah.
so it is really, when did you realize that this was something that was really in demand in the marketplace that you could speak to, and then from there stand out, like you're saying, from the competition, because it is highly competitive.
Absolutely. So I think I mentioned before that we left and we started our design company, and that was okay. We struggled a lot. Like when we started, it was service based, so we were really trading time for money, and it was all new to us. So we were just like learning on our feet. And from there, we kind of jumped across to like a printed invitation store, and we were like, oh wow, this is great. It's very in line with the way that I love to design because I love sort of feminine graphics are. So I did that for a little while. And then I realized that there was this whole sort of area of invitation design was digital products, and it was passive income. So instead of having to sort of get a job and do the job and send the job and then the job's finished, I could just make like thousands and thousands of designs, pop them all up, and then they would just sell on autopilot. So we started to build that into our business. The first store we had was selling web design banners for websites. And I remember when it made its first $70, I was just like, oh my goodness, like I didn't have to do any work. It's amazing. You have to put it up initially, but then it just sells on autopilot. So I was like, this is the future. Like being able to build this in, it was incredible. And it meant that like I was able to kind of work from home, sort of do design on my own terms and have a lot of babies while I was working. So
yes, it's very liberating. And your most recent one, our precious Miss Lily, who was born right in the middle of one of our projects.
I know, the small but mighty offer, hey?
Yeah, and the thing about Jessa, which is amazing, I didn't know, well, given that you're in Australia, I'm here in Florida, I had no idea you were expecting a baby. And when I heard like, oh, well, I just had a baby yesterday, I'm like, huh? And you're still working into this stuff. So you're a pretty incredible lady. And it kind of speaks to the rhythm of working from home like you're doing. It's like you're able to set your own pace. And
absolutely. I remember like you made me that gorgeous little graphic when Lily was born, congratulating me. It was so sweet. I was just, I don't know. Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just amazing that with the tools that we have now, like a non-graphic designer like myself, I don't know Photoshop, I don't know how to do anything like all technical, but a little bit of Canva template, we can, with a few simple, steps, put together things that we wouldn't be able to before. So let me ask you this question. So with the rise of the Canvas of the world and so forth, how does that impact you as a graphic designer creating original content? How do you offset that? Or how does
Well, I totally embrace it. I love it because it really brings down the wall to like let clients be able to have access to their own design, because there is so much like time when you're working one-on-one with someone, like you go back and forth with edits. And yeah, it's so much better being able to make a design, pass it to the client, and then they can put their own touch on it and make all their changes themselves. It's really good.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a very progressive approach, because I would imagine there's some might think, well, this is competition for us, but what you're saying, you embrace it as it's actually helps your business, in fact, not detract from it. It can actually.
Absolutely. It adds to the customer service as well. Like you can, like, yeah, it's so much better for people to be able to get more value out of something that you're offering, isn't it?
Absolutely. So let me just backtrack a little moment and do a little glossary, because I want to also speak to people who may not be familiar with some of the terms we're using. May not be, I'm sure most of them are, but just for those who may not, words like thumbnails and even Canva. So Canva is an app. It's a graphic design app. It's the app that I use to do all the stuff behind me. And it's just an amazing app. They have a free version, they have a paid version, a pro version. And so these tools are accessible to anyone who wants to jump in with them. But to define a thumbnail, what's a thumbnail?
Okay, so a thumbnail is basically, it's kind of like a portal to your world, I would guess. So it's basically a summary of whatever you're offering, and people click to go through to like the full product, if that makes sense, or the service or the offer.
Right.
So a lot of the time a thumbnail will be really summarized. You might have a price on it. You might have a couple of dot points, things like that.
And so, like, for example, if someone sees a video on YouTube or something, they see a picture with verbiage on it, that's a thumbnail. So
that is a thumbnail, yes.
Right. So the videos that, like on my YouTube channel, I do those all in Canva with the thumbnails, with the titles and so forth. So can you speak to the design of the thumbnail as one of the key things in stopping the scroll, especially when you're going through YouTube or different places like that, when you are literally scrolling along?
Absolutely. So when we're like in those search engine platforms, we're literally like, we're in front of millions of eyes. Like there's millions of people on that site, and they're sort of looking for content, and you're competing against other people who are making content to get their views. So have you ever heard of a click-through rate before?
The click-through rate, yes.
Yes, and then a conversion rate. Have you heard of that before as well?
Yes, but amplify it for our listeners so that we're all on the same page.
Beautiful. So a click-through rate is basically a percentage which, for example, if you have 100 eyes looking on your product and one person clicks through, it will be a 1% click-through rate. So that means that one person for every 100 is clicking through on that content and actually viewing your content. Does that make sense?
Yes, very good.
And then a conversion rate, it uses the same principle, but it's actual eyes who are landing on your product and purchasing. So, for example, if 100 people look at your product and they actually come to the product page of your product and 2 of them purchase, your conversion rate would be 2%.
Now, are there ranges of percentages that you should aim for? Like, obviously, we want a 100% of everything, but that's not feasible. So what's considered a good click-through rates and good conversion rates?
It's different for every platform, but I think around 10% is pretty good for YouTube. In terms of conversion rates, I think 1 to 2% is about average, but you can definitely push that up with some really great design and thumbnails and that kind of thing.
Okay. All right. So let's jump into. I know you've already started to share some insights about the window of opportunity is very short, like 3 seconds depending on the platform you're on, and designing for the customers. What are some other things that we need to keep in mind as we approach like the strategy of coming up with our content? And let me also clarify, are we speaking specifically about the visual content, like the graphic design aspect? That's our focus, or are you including more? Just want to expand.
So typically, as business owners, we kind of have to wear a lot of hats, don't we? So I guess when I say like visual content, I mainly talk about design because that is my strength, but I'm talking about copywriting as well, and the way that you sort of structure that so that it clearly communicates to your clients. So I'd say number 1, design, number 2, copywriting is what I'm talking about.
Okay. So for our purposes, mainly today, we're focusing on the visual aspect of it. And how would you kind of train a non-designer, someone who, they really don't get it, how to quite put the visuals together? What are some things you would say to a novice? Like, they don't know a thing about this. They want to really kind of get some see through new eyes is basically what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I think less is more. I think you mentioned that before as well. So really sort of being restrained with your design and paring it back so it's very clear, using sort of a very limited color palette. You don't have too much going on. I think that is the best way to sort of start out. And as you sort of gain that visual eye, you can add a little bit more and sort of play around with it a little bit more. But when you are just starting out, definitely just very basic color palettes, probably picking one main color for your thumbnails or your graphics and sticking to that, because there's a lot of benefits as well with sort of keeping a very limited color palette. For example, like we're using so many platforms these days, like you yourself have like Facebook, YouTube. Do you have Instagram?
Yes. I sure do.
Yeah. And you have a website as well. So that's like 4 just there. Right. And there'd be more.
Right.
So using that color that you picked in your thumbnail and using that across all the platforms, it really helps people sort of recognize you. So do you have a color with your branding that you love using all the time?
Well, just
I
like
think it's the pink and the blue.
That book right there. I mean, I've really had that as a theme. Those 2 colors have been intertwining throughout a lot of what I'm doing. Yep, it has.
Yeah, well, when I see that pink and blue now, I think of you. So it's a really great way to sort of build your brand. Yeah, that combination.
No, that's really great because, it's like the whole idea is like for me, I have this Caribbean background. So the sea and the sky and the bright flowers, and those are the things that kind of energize me, and this whole thing of supercharging. And I think when it comes to design, we need to know what inspires us or what makes us feel most in tune with our core to produce things that people can resonate that will connect them to you. I know that might sound a little esoteric, but I know you understand what I'm trying to say.
I do. I totally. Like, what's the story of your branding? How did you like design your branding?
Well, let me see. I can't even fully even say, well, it happened like this and it happened like that. But it's a organic process. And it may start, it's not like I intentionally said, well, I'm going to use turquoise and pink. It just kind of happened and I'm like, oh, that looks good. Playing around with colors and maybe started off with one color and what matches it. So I might have had the pink and like, okay, what goes with that I like? And like, oh, that works. And then next thing you know, it becomes your hallmark kind of color palette, if you will. And then you look for complementary colors to it. So it's not always those two colors. It's not like you can't add another color to tone down one, right? You can blend in other things, but those two are the foundational colors. At least that was my experience. But I will say though, for my Kasuri business, a bag business, our colors are green. It's a light green and a darker green, and I will share this really quickly. That came out of wanting to have a reptilian effect. Our company name was
Oh,
Chameleon, so we wanted to mimic the changing colors of a chameleon. So it was very much about being in tune with colors, being in tune with nature. So green was and we wanted to be fresh. So green, it was a very specific, definitely green oriented brand. And from there, other things kind of flowed out of that. So anyway, it's
I
interesting how
love
it
that.
comes together. Yeah. So just so when
It's
you were,
interesting.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, it's just interesting how, like, you're saying that you use green to mimic a chameleon. It's amazing how just using color can really, it can give you a whole feeling around a brand, can't it?
Yes. And it inspires you to do other things because for me, the creative process inspires other things. Like just the graphic inspires the copywriting sometimes.
It does, yeah. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it
It's
is
probably the funnest thing.
it is. It is. So how do you teach somebody? So this is a really interesting point here. How do you teach somebody to see something they can't see? See with the new eye. So if they don't have a design background and they want to cultivate, because you mentioned how they can maybe cultivate their design sense, how do you cultivate your design sense or sensibility?
Okay. So I think a lot of people are sort of under the perception that creativity, you're kind of born with it, but that's not true. Like, it's very much like learning maths in a way. Like, it's just practice. So the more that you expose yourself to other designs, the more that you're researching, just really analyzing and learning the way that other people are sort of designing, that's how you're going to learn and develop that design eye. It's weird because the curtain will just come away and you'll be like, oh, I can see what's wrong in this design, or I can see what I like about this design. It's just experience and practice and just being repetitive, I guess, and
Hmm.
learning.
And being open to it, right, Jessa? Being open to knowing that you can.
Exactly, exactly.
And
Everyone's creative.
And I think this is very reassuring because for a lot of people who think that you're either born with it, you're born an artist, or you're born, but yes, you may have certain talents and so forth, but even the most famous artists in the world, they had to cultivate those skills and cultivate those talents. So they had to nurture maybe certain innate abilities the same way we can learn to nurture it as well.
Absolutely. And it's a good feeling as well. Like creating something, it's a really, really, I don't know, it kind of makes your heart glow, doesn't it? It's a beautiful thing to be able to like make your own design. So I definitely encourage, if you're watching this and you're like, oh, I don't know if I could be a designer, step out of your comfort zone and jump into Canva and just give it a try.
Tell them, Jessa. That's right. Oh
Yeah,
yeah. At first it might feel a little off-putting like anything new, but once you get at it and you get the knack, it's so liberating.
absolutely. And it'll save you a fortune as well because you won't have to pay someone else to do it. So definitely push yourself. And if you feel uncomfortable, push yourself a little bit more.
Now that's the quote of the day. That's the quote of the day. People need to write that down. Say that again, Jessa. Say that. That's a tweetable moment. Say that again.
Oh, I can't remember what I said. Push yourself, and if you, I can't remember what I said
You
after
said
you
if
watch
you
the replay.
feel uncomfortable, push yourself a little bit more.
Yes.
Yes, yes, we have to quote that. We have to quote. I'm trying to write that down. Yes, absolutely. That is exactly it. And that's true for almost anything in business or any endeavor that people are undertaking. There is, it's natural there'll be moments, a lot of moments of discomfort where you're not quite in your zone. But in order to get there, you have to tunnel through that period of time of discomfort so you can break through.
Absolutely. It's, yeah. I think people will probably look at you and they're like, oh, I could never be like Emily. Like, she's achieved so much. And it's like, you didn't get there overnight, though. You really pushed and you pushed and you pushed and you failed and you pushed and you pushed.
We'd call what you call someone like myself, it's like you have to persist until you can't persist anymore.
Yeah.
And that's really it. And I mean, that's sweet of you to say, but I have to tell you that it's an ongoing journey. And I never feel like, oh, I'm not, we're on a journey. And I don't know if the journey will ever end. It's just a journey and you're on a journey. And you have milestones along the way, and some are great, some are not. And so you have to be willing, though, to accept what's ahead of you because we've just made the decision to be on this entrepreneurial path. So therefore, we're committed to whatever is out there. But it's a
Oh,
lot
I
of
know.
it's a
It's
lot
so
of
true. That's a really good analogy.
oh my god,
Just sort
that's
of
a
walking along.
boundary.
You'll be 90 years old, still on a journey. You're like, I'm still
Yes,
on a journey.
yes, we are, and that's what people need to understand. That is, I one key thing I believe it's missing from people's mindset is that they're just looking for a destination all the time. And it's kind of like design. It's a journey of design, of evolution, of branding. How speak to me about this because I know you again, you know where I'm coming from because both of us we could talk maybe on a certain subliminal level, but I have to remember other people are listening, so I want to make sure that they don't miss in between the gaps. But because I think I can communicate with Jessa without saying a lot, but maybe I'm saying too much as it is. So you take it away from me, Jessa. Go run with this.
No, I feel very in tune with you. And I think that's because you're creative and you're a designer as well. So yeah, you totally get where I'm coming from. But I think a lot of people, they kind of see design and they'll be like, oh, I couldn't do that. But a lot of the time, like if I'm design something, I've like sat there and I've redone it like 20 times and I'm still redoing it. Like that's not the final version that you're going to see either. It's just going to keep changing and changing and changing. So
And that's the other thing about the tweaking, because we can get into the endless tweak mode. How do you stop the tweak? How do you know when good it's good
you're just
enough?
going to look away. You're just going to look away and just be like, that's enough.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'll tweak forever.
Do you set like a timer, like this is it? If I don't haven't finished tweaking by this point, I tweak no more?
That's a pretty good idea, actually. I should get myself a timer. I spend a little bit too much time tweaking sometimes. I know. Yeah. I do have like a Trello board with like my goals and stuff. So I do cut myself off at a point if I haven't sort of reached like what I'm supposed to have launched. But yeah.
All right, so now Trello board. Tell us what is a Trello board for those who don't know what it is.
Okay, so Trello is an incredible system for people who have like a million things going on in their brain. It's a free piece of software that you can sign up with just an email address. And basically, what it lets you do is take all those little bits of information that are going on in your brain and just put them out as cards. That's what they're called. And you just lay them out in columns and you can just see them all and they're not in your brain anymore.
That sounds great. And they can end up on a calendar, right?
You can, there is a calendar and there's heaps of like cool little widgets in Trello, but I definitely recommend it if you have a lot going on in your brain, which if you're watching this, you're probably a business owner and you probably do.
Yeah, it's basically a project management software tool that you can use to organize, as you say, different projects. Now, I've used Asana. I haven't used Trello per se. Do you have like a preference between the two? Have you used Asana by chance?
I haven't used Asana. I want to look at it. Like I've seen it keeps popping up in like my feeds. It's being advertised to me. So I've got to check it out. Is it good?
Well, I need to use it more. I have the app, I have all kinds of Asana stuff, but I just literally need to really put all those, as you said, all those projects in there. Um, but I like it. I like what I've seen, and I want to do more. Let me put it that way. And they also have
I
some
think
similar. Go,
sorry.
no, no, no. Go ahead. You go ahead.
I want to hear what you're going to say about
No,
it.
no, no, no. I was just kind of transitioning to you, and as I said, was saying earlier, when we got on our call, that we may have a little bit of a delay because of the time zone or whatever the technology, so people can just bear with us on that. But yeah, no, I was just kind of seconding, chiming in on what you were saying, not adding anything to this.
Yeah. No, I think sometimes we sort of hold everything in our brain. So it's like such a relief to sort of get it out there and see all your ideas. And yeah, I don't know. Do you feel that you have a lot of ideas?
Yeah, I think that absolutely, and actually, I appreciate that you're highlighting how you use Trello, because people need to know that there are tools that can help you sort through all these multiple things. Like you're saying, you have, was it 17 different stores or something in Etsy? And to
Yeah.
track all of those. Actually, one of the things I wanted to ask you is why did you decide to have 17 as opposed to one and have all the products on there? What was the motivation for that?
Okay, so each of them one is basically their own niche. So we've got one for baby showers. So everyone who's looking for something which is like baby shower related will go to Bonjour Baby. That is the store. So
Mhm.
got Bride Tribe, which is just like bridal shower. So it's another niche. So really sort of niching down. So all the products that are in the store are relevant to the customer shopping there.
So talk about that, because in the whole design process, you have to know who your niche is in order to create a world. So you're creating a world for the baby shower, a world for the bride, a world for, whatever other niches that you work with. How does that impact your design process?
I really have to, I guess, think about what the client really wants. So just really trying to get into their head and using colors that will appeal to them, using designs, like doing a lot of research around what they're looking for, keywords that they're searching, things like that. So really sort of tailoring the stores to what the clients want so they can be successful.
And then telling a visual story with what they tell you.
Exactly, exactly. That's a really good way to put it. Yeah.
So like let's say that we have, because we may have people here now launching their online businesses, they're coaches, they're authors, they're all kinds of different people like that. What are some tips in interacting with a designer that you would advise someone coming to you to say to work with you, or a designer, like how can we make your job easier? Let me put it
I
that
think
way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a really good question. I think, yeah, just giving the designer as much like information around what you want as possible. So if you have a Pinterest board, you can share with them and show them some things that you love in terms of design, even if they don't like relate to your industry at all. You might really like the typeface on something or things like that, and just over communicating exactly what you want. So as a designer, we can really get in your head and create something which you're going to love.
And the point about a Pinterest board, that's something that's easy to share, where you can quickly grab ideas and say, hey, this is my style, this is my whole vibe right here. Um, and then you would take aspects of that and then create something that would speak to the person, or
Exactly.
their
Yeah.
niche, or their client. Because I think one of the most difficult things is when someone doesn't get you, you have to like really click. And it has to do with, again, personal taste or style and things of that sort. But you have to, like, I really love Jessa's work. Jessa's work is clean. I love the clean modern style that you have, and the use of the typefaces and the fonts. So maybe you want to speak to that some too, about how do you select the right font for a client? How do you capture their personality in the font?
It's a good question. There's so many different fonts. Like I sort of tend to like use, I guess, more simple fonts, and sort of like high fashion fonts I kind of gravitate to. Sometimes I do use a script. It really depends on the industry and sort of like where that client is trying to sell. Because if, for example, it's in a high traffic go like website like Etsy, you want it to be extremely clear so people can look at like what they're trying to buy and instantly know what it is. Like they don't want to be trying to read a script, if that makes sense. So yeah, I always sort of edge towards simpler fonts myself, I think, even though it's tempting to be creative and use lots of different ones.
So using, okay, so do you tend to work with a specific set of fonts, or like you'll go into a whole other font family if it's that kind of, whatever it is, but you kind of tend to work within a specific range of fonts?
I do. I kind of have a problem where I just like am ongoing buying fonts. Like my font library is worth thousands and thousands of dollars. It's my shame. I'm going to admit, yeah.
No shame.
They all look pretty. No shame, no shame.
No.
No. But I'm hugely passionate about type, because it's really like if you can get your type looking good, you're winning the war, aren't you? Because it's like the main thing that people are going to read. It needs to be clear, it needs to be beautiful, it needs to communicate. And yeah, if you can nail that, then you're set.
So in selecting fonts, especially like with going back to the whole thumbnail, whether it's in for YouTube or somewhere else, what are some things that you want to consider when selecting the font for the thumbnail? Are there any like best practices for that?
I think just keeping it simple and making sure that you don't have like all the pieces of text fighting for attention. So you need to have what's called hierarchy, which is where your eye can clearly sort of run through what's in the thumbnail in a specific order. And that order is very clear. Like you're not sort of, your eye isn't darting from one corner to another corner to the middle. You're sort of following a pattern as you're looking at the thumbnail. Like you might look at the header, which would be the first hierarchy. Then you might look at the dot points, which might be the second hierarchy. Then you might look at the image. So just keeping that hierarchy really clear, really simple fonts. And Canva is really amazing. Have you seen the font combinations in Canva? They're great, aren't they?
Yes, it really helps. It helps so much. As a matter of fact, they do so much already for you to make it easier, and you can just add your own style from there, but they help you with the foundation of the design structure. And then you add, but the whole idea of hierarchy, I think, is really fundamental to what you're sharing with us. Is people need to realize, just like how you were saying before, just like you learn to do your mathematics and you learn to read, you learn the basics of design, which is about hierarchy and structure, and then making it appealing, like understanding that framework exists, and working with that framework, as opposed to just random ideas. You're just being creative like in the wild. That's not how it works.
I know. It's actually a really fun activity to be sort of sit down with a piece of paper and be like, because it's not going to be everything that's going to be the most important thing on your thumbnail. You should sort of sit down, list all the elements, and then go through and number them as to what is the most important to the least important, if that makes sense.
So how do we do that? Give us an example of how you would go about that we can put into practice.
Okay, say that I am selling a book. So I will have the name of the book, which will be the heading. I might have some dot points, and I might have a picture of the book. So I would write on a piece of paper, I would write picture of a book, I would write heading, and I would write dot points. Then I would sort of have a think and be like, what is the number one thing? If this client could only see one thing on this thumbnail, what would it be? What is the most important?
I think we got a little temporary freeze. Uh-oh. Jessa, can you hear? Hello, hello. I think we're frozen for a moment, everybody. Hopefully we can reconnect shortly. Just bear with us. Tech issues. connected there. The joys of technology, everyone. The joys of technology. And I'm not going to let her forget where she was because she's about to say something really, really important there that we want to catch. So when we get Jessa back, we will resume with that sentence. And I hope we get her back. Okay. Oh my, the joys of transcontinental discussion. Okay, let me see if I can get Jess on here. Okay. Oh my. Yeah, we're having a storm in Florida tonight, so that could be impacting us, but you're able to hear me go, so I think with the Jessa connection, hopefully we'll get her back. Let me see if she could maybe re-log in, I don't know. this is a first. This is a supercharged Sunday first to have this length of being frozen. My total apologies. Let me try. I'm trying to communicate with Jessa right now. Okay. I have Jessa 1. I have Jessa 2.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. The original one is kind of still frozen on the screen.
Oh no.
Do you see
Is
it?
my face like still frozen?
You're good now, but it's like I have 3. Let me try to refresh this.
Oh,
Okay.
you've got 3.
I have three of us. I have two Jess. Okay, one Jess is gone. All right, but I still have 3 screens. That's okay. Let me make you put it on speaker. All right. No, welcome back. I'm so excited that you're back. We're getting a little nervous that we were losing you. But so yeah, that's just the vagaries of technology. No problem. On with the show, on with the show. So you were saying something really starting to say something really had us sitting at the edge of our seats there about
sorry.
do you remember?
I was talking to myself for ages. I was sitting here and it probably won't be as good if I retell it now.
No, you have to. We were at the edge of the seats. We got to get back on the edge of the seats.
What was the last thing you heard?
It's like the most important thing you guys need to know is it was something like that.
Okay, the most I don't know what it was
Well,
now.
let me try to kind of set it back up a little, might jog your memory. So we were talking about the hierarchy of the thumbnail. You were saying take the piece of paper, right? If you were like doing a book, you're gonna put the picture, you're gonna do the bullet points or the dot points as you're saying, and then if it was the number one thing you wanted people to know, then you were going to explain that.
Yes. Okay. So if the number one, if they come to your thumbnail and there was only one thing that they could take away, that is going to be your first point of hierarchy. So you need to make that one the most dominant in the design. It needs to be really clear, that one thing. So if they look at your design, they see that one thing. And if they don't see anything else, it's fine, if that makes sense. And then your second and third hierarchy will fall back in the design in terms of how dominant they are.
So this really is right in line with the whole thing about the draw dropping or the stopping of the scroll. So the stopping of the scroll, someone will stop because something speaks to them, or it's presented in a way that's really clear so they can understand it and it speaks to them. Now, what will make their draw drop?
Well, I think like it's, if you think about it, almost like you've seen something shiny in the backyard. It just needs to be shiny enough to catch their attention. And then the jaw-dropping part is really going to be you as your business, like showing what you have to offer. That's going to be what's jaw-dropping. And it has to be in a really clear, easy to interpret way. They're going to come down to the product that you're offering, which is going to drop their jaw. So communicating that.
So right there, that's the thing that will make them want to click or no more, or say, I want to click through to the product and try.
Yes.
So here's the thing, like, how do we, one of the things I think a key takeaway that people would want to know is there, with all the great tips you've shared so far, is there like a pivotal moment in this process that makes me know this is scroll stopping and this is draw dropping? How do I know that I've achieved that goal?
Okay, so it's kind of a little bit, it's going to be based on results. So you're not going to get it first time. You're not going to be able to just create something. Like I definitely do not. I like have to make something and I have to see the results. I have to see if people are clicking on it. I'm constantly tweaking things to improve that click-through rate and that conversion rate and make it better. So it is a process and it will go on forever. So you just have to constantly tweak things, put it up, see the results, see how many people are clicking through, tweak something, see what the results are, and if it's better, keep it. Tweak it again. If it's worse, drop it. It's that process of like trial and error, if that makes sense.
Ah.
So a lot of pieces of software like YouTube, they will give you analytics, sort of showing you results on your posts, so you can track the results that way. Etsy's the same. I think Facebook does as well. So just really looking at those analytics.
So speaking of that, so once you look at the analytics and all of that kind of thing, you're going to use it then to go back to driving the traffic. So could you give us some tips on how you drive traffic, like to your Etsy page or to any other website that you have? What are some insights that you can share on that with creating the content that drives traffic?
Absolutely. So probably the biggest question I get is why aren't I getting anyone on my website? And it's because you've got to kind of think about your website as like a little house that you've built on a farm and there's no roads to it. So you've got to actually put in some roads to actually send some people to your website. And you can do that with anything which is search engine sort of related. So things like Pinterest. People are going on Pinterest and they're searching for things and then they're finding your posts that way and you can send them to your website that way. So Pinterest, it's a fantastic traffic driver for websites. Another one is Facebook, which is, it's a little bit more competitive, but Facebook is another way to drive traffic. In terms of Etsy, I would be sending people from social media to Etsy to buy. That is how I sort of get a lot of traffic there, but that is search engine based as well. So you have people sort of coming to the website looking for something and just naturally sort of buying something through your site that way. So yeah, anything that you can do to send traffic from a search engine based platform like Google, Pinterest, Facebook, Instagram, sending them to your website that way is perfect.
So just walk us through an example, because I really like examples where I can kind of visualize the path. So someone would arrive on your website first and then end up in Pinterest, or how does that flow?
Okay, so say that I want to make a strategy to get more people onto my website. So I've got to think about something juicy on my website to draw them in first. So it could be a lead magnet or it could be as simple as like a blog post. Say that I want to do a blog post on different breeds of cats. So I've got different breeds of cats and I want people to come and read this blog post. I can then go to Pinterest and I can make 30 different pins, little graphics, which say different types of cats, find out more, different breeds of cats. And I can then post them to Pinterest with links on those posts. And when people sort of, it catches their eye on Pinterest, they'll open the pin and they'll want to read more and click through to your website that way.
So when you said you create 30 pins that leads to one blog post, am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, so anything which is search engine optimized, you want to create more than one form of content. So you don't want to just make one pin for your post. You want to make 30 because you want to give as much of an opportunity for people to find your content as possible. And it also gives you that opportunity to do that, like some split testing. So if you don't know what split testing is basically when you have more than one design and you're tracking the results. It's almost like a little race, I would say, and you're tracking the results of each pin and seeing which one performs best. And then you can sort of put your energy into pins that look and perform a certain way, if that makes sense. So yeah, uploading lots of content to those platforms is always going to be a good thing because it gives you more like little hooks where you can hook people in and bring them to your website.
Pearls of wisdom, pearls of wisdom. Because, sometimes we hear about this, we know it's a good idea, but we don't do it. And because we're not sure we have all the answers, but as you're saying, there's a lot of trial and error. You have to just start it and let it start to teach you how it works. And that goes back to that uncomfortable part that we had mentioned in the beginning. Like there's a time when this might not feel very comfortable, but by jumping in, it starts to become clearer, and then you get into a rhythm of how it works. So this is very insightful and very encouraging to Jessa as well, because we're getting a chance to see how you approach these things and so on. So how do people get to work with you if they want to tap into your expertise and your professional offerings? How do people connect with you, Jessa?
So if you want to connect with me, you can visit me at www.brandsugar.com.au. So I am in Australia, so it's got that .au on the end.
Oops, freeze again. Oh, okay. Okay, so brandsugar.au. All right. So they will connect. And so what are some ways that people do like hire you, or types of projects that you like doing for your clients?
So currently I'm actually booked out for custom work at the moment, so I'm not taking on any custom clients. So a lot of the work that I do is passive income, but I have a lot of templates on my website which are pre-designed and beautiful, so you can just sort of pop your content in and away you go. They save a bunch of time, and yeah, if you're sort of edging into the industry, you don't sort of have that comfort or confidence in yourself and your design skills yet, they're a really great place to start. We've also I've just done a collaboration with Abby Cornell. So you know Abby.
Yes, Miss Abby, of course.
That's how we met. So we've just
Yes.
launched our electric engagement bundle, which is it's this huge bundle. It's got 1,000 templates in it, and lots and lots of Canva templates. So it's really fantastic for sort of producing a lot of content quickly across all the different platforms and really upping that engagement. So that's our electric engagement bundle.
That is so awesome. And I heard Abby talking about that too, listening to one of her master classes. And I think it's brilliant. And she was also singing your praises at the amazing work you did with her and things you did on her website and everything. And I saw those graphics. And of course, I said, yep, I can see Jess's hand in this. This is excellent. So you're really doing an amazing job for a lot of people and making such a difference in how people are presenting themselves graphically, Jessa, all around the world. You're having this impact. So
Oh,
it's
that's so nice. No, it's been like, how incredible is it that even we were able to meet and connect? It's like
yeah,
we're so lucky and so blessed with the internet these days. We can really like meet all these incredible people. Like we never would have met
yeah,
20 years ago,
right,
probably.
right.
It would have been very unlikely. So
Yes,
no.
yes. It really is a blessing. Well, I'm very thankful to know you, and I look forward to kind of delving more into your world because there's so much there that you have to offer. And so people can follow you again. I will drop also the links brandsugar.com.au and connect with Jessa. And you also have a really great Facebook group and also you're on Instagram. What's your Instagram handle?
Brand Sugar Company.
Brand Sugar Company, all spelt out company. Okay. All right,
Yeah.
excellent. All right, well, I want to thank Jessa so much for being with us. This has been really fantastic, getting into the creative mind and the creative approach to your business and to presenting your message in an effective way. So, thank you for sharing this. And I encourage everyone to join us again next week for Supercharged Sunday. And every week we have a wonderful guest sharing great insights of real value to your business. And I also want to make sure invite you to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Emily McHugh on YouTube. I'm trying to get my subscribers in there. So please go over and subscribe and like, and all the Supercharged Sundays are on here as well. And let's see what else you need to do. Make sure you've signed up for my newsletter, Supercharged newsletter, and for my upcoming Mastermind Retreat program, which is launching in August, which is providing that opportunity for us to gain perspective on our business. So again, thank you, Jessa. Thank you everyone for watching. If you have questions, put them in the comments. We'll come back later and see them. But we really appreciate your being here. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, do all those things you're supposed to do, and get the word out on what we're sharing with you today. So with that, I'm going to wish you a great week. Stay supercharged and see you next time. Thanks, Jessa.
Bye.
Okay.